Okay, we are live. It is Monday, the 23rd of March. Anybody getting tired of this? I'd like to just go back to school, but here we are, right? So, 3/23/2020. Okay, so here we are. It is, first let's take a look at the homework and the answer. So again, I want to emphasize no work, no credit. Even though mine don't show work, but then, you know, I don't have to do the work because I'm a teacher, I can. But if I take a look at number one, I'll eventually get into square root of a negative 49. You can't take the square root of a negative number, so no solution. Number three, you get 0. Square root of 0 is just 0, plus or minus 0, 0. On 5, after you add 72 and divide by 2, square root of 36, you get a square root of 36. Two answers. So you get plus minus square root of 6. Number 7, when you finally divide, you get the square root of 25. Square root of 25, two answers because of x squared, you get plus or minus 5. On 9, let's see, number 9, you end up with the square root of, you get 25 over 81, but you square root of that and you get 5 over 9. Decimal answer, I don't know what the decimal answer is, but it's not a very nice answer, but plus or minus square root of 5/9 because you get two answers. 11, when you solve, you get the square root of a negative 9/25, no solution, can't take the square root of a negative number. 13, you just get the square root of 0 is 0, but then you add 4 and you get 4. 15 takes a little bit of work. You square it first. When you square it first, you get a 2x plus 7 equals plus or minus the square root of 49, which is 7. So you get two mini equations and you solve it, okay? And 17 I'm actually going to do to make sure everybody knows what's going on. But I get negative 2/27 and negative 16/27. Hopefully somebody got those answers. 19 plus minus square root of 2, and the square root of 2 is, I think, is about a 1.4. It says nearest hundredth, 1.41. I'll actually show you what's square root of 2. So it would be about a 1.41 plus or minus 1.41. But I like square root of 2 better. It's a better answer. Number 21, I get plus or minus square root of 24, and I broke it up, 4 and 6. You know, you can get a decimal answer, but I like this answer better. Square root of, what's square root of 24? Let's see what we get. We get, 4.89. That would round up to 99. But I like this answer better. 23, same thing, you get the square root of 2.5, which is, you know, let's see, square root of 2.5, plus or minus, about 1.58. I like that answer better. And then finally, when the ball is thrown up, we set the height equal to 0. I brought over the 16x squared, I divided, I get the square root of that, square root of 81, 61 gives me 2.25, plus or minus, but you don't use a negative answer. So that's what I got. I did want to do number 17. I really did. So let's take a look at 17. Okay. Here we go. On number 17. So one more time, how do you do this? Well, I've got a mess. I'm going to clean it up. First things first, divide by 81, divide by 81. Cancels that out. I'm going to have a 3x plus 1 squared equals 49 over 81. But then I'm going to square root both sides to get rid of the square. So I square root both sides, get rid of the square, square root both sides. Two answers. So I've got a 3x plus 1. Square root's gone. Square root's gone. They cancel each other out. Equals square root of 49 is 7. Square root of 81 is 9, so I get plus or minus 7/9. Okay, now, what am I going to do with that? Many equations. Okay, I can do that. I'm going to get 3x plus 1 equals a positive 7/9, and I get a 3x plus 1 equals the negative 7/9. Okay, so I need two answers because it's x squared. I square rooted my 49/81, so I got plus or minus 7/9. I need two answers, so I need two mini equations. 3x plus 1 equals the positive, 3x plus 1 equals the negative. Now, let's just solve. Okay, minus 1, minus 1. I get a 3x equals, if I did a common denominator, I made that 9/9. 9/9, I'd get a 2/9. divide by 3 or multiply by 1/3, I get a 27. So I get a 2 27ths. I get x equals 2 over 27. Over here, minus 1, but same thing if I need a common denominator, 9/9. I'm going to get 3x equals negative 7. Oh, let's see, negative 16. Sorry, negative 16 ninths, because I add the 2. And then divide by 3, I'll get negative 16 27ths. And that's how they got those answers. Okay, now, all right. Big day if you're going on to pre-calculus someday. Mr. Massey said you've got to know how to complete the square. All right, so before I start completing the square, let me show you an example, okay? So today's lesson is completing the square, all right? So let's take a look at an example. I've got an x plus 4 squared equals 25. Okay, so what I like about this problem is that solving it's pretty easy because it's just square root, and then I get plus minus 5. If I was silly enough to, you know, do it this way and multiply it all the way through, you know, and then bring everything over and factor, it's kind of a pain. If it's in this form, it's kind of nice. Square root. So, our goal is to get problems to look like this. Because if it looks like this, quantity squared, it's easy to solve. Square root, we'll get x plus 4 equals plus or minus 5, and then you're going to get a 9 and a 1 as an answer, okay? So, let's take a look at what completing the square is all about. So our goal is to make problems look like this. So here's our first example, okay? I have x squared plus 12x plus, and we're going to put an open circle here, okay? So here's what I want to do. I want to make this, I want to put a number here that makes this a perfect trinomial, okay? So the number's 36. Now how do I know it's 36? Well, I know if this number here, this invisible number is 36, it'll factor nicely. But you can't see that. There is a trick, okay? There is our A, B, and we're going to try and make C. This number right here we call B, okay? So we're going to take half of B and we're going to square it, okay? Alright, how does that work? Okay, in this case, B is 12. So we're going to take half of 12, which is 6, right? Half of 12 is 6. 6 squared is 36. So the number I want to put here is 36. Okay, so we created a new number, 36. Now, why do we do that? Because then we can factor. And this is what we want to do on today's lesson. We want to factor. And so this factors into x plus 6, x plus 6, which can be rewritten as x plus 6 quantity squared. Now, some of you are going to see it right off the bat what this number needs to be. If not, take your number. Take B. Take half of it. That's 6. Square 6 and you get 36, okay? Take half of B, which is 6. 6 squared is 36. Put in the extra number, okay? Let's do another. Okay, we're going to practice this. So, the next one I have is this one. X squared minus a 14x plus something. Okay, now something's 49. How can I see that? Well, all right, let's do the same thing. Half of this is 7. Well, it's a negative 7, but then negative 7 squared is a positive 49. So let's do it. Okay, I'm going to do it, just show it. Here's my B. So my B value is negative 14. I'm going to take half of that. Half of 14 is a negative 7. And I'm going to square that answer. square negative 7, and I get a positive 49. So that's the number I want to put right here, because when I factor my trinomial, the reason we do it is we get an x minus 7, x minus 7, x minus 7 times x minus 7, we can rewrite as an x minus 7 squared. Okay, so this is called completing the square. The reason we call it completing the square is because all of a sudden you've got a square. We call it a square trinomial because it can be written as a quantity square. It's called a square trinomial because when you factor it, you get a quantity squared. Okay, now why do we do it? Well, let me show you. Okay, so now that we kind of know how we do it, let's see why we do it. Okay, let's take a look at an example. Okay, example 1. Well, no, example 3 really. Solve. Okay, so if I have x squared minus 2x equals 1, okay? And put the equals 1 over here, okay? Alright, so what do I need to do? Well, I want to complete the square. I want to rewrite this problem so it looks something like this, or something like this. So I'm going to complete the square. So here's how I do it. B is negative 2. Take half of that. Well, half of negative 2 is negative 1. I'm going to square that number. Well, negative 1 times negative 1 is a positive 1. Now, what I'm going to do, I like to say call fill the hole. See the hole right there? I'm going to put my positive 1 right there. So I'm going to put that 1, put right here, I'm going to go plus 1, okay? What's the point? Why do we even do this? Well, because then we can rewrite this. Now wait a minute, we've got one really important thing we have to do. Please, 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 we have to balance. Write that down. Got to balance. I just added 1 to this side, and any time you see an equal sign, it's like a balance. It's like a balance beam. I just added 1 to this side. You absolutely have to do the same thing. So when you do this with an equal sign, if you add 1 here, you have to add the 1 here. If you add 3, add 3, add 5, add 5. You've got to keep it balanced. So if I added 1 here, or whatever I add to this side, I have to add to the other side. Okay, so now, all right, it's balanced. I added 1 pound this side, add 1 pound. So now let's factor. So the next thing is to factor. So I'm going to rewrite this. I can factor this trinomial into parentheses, 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 parentheses. I'm going to go x and x minus 1 minus 1, and all that equals 1 plus 1 is 2. Okay, we can rewrite that as a x minus 1 quantity squared equals 2. Okay, now we solve. Now I want to solve the problem. So I'm going to square root, because if I square root, I get rid of the square, square root. Two answers. We have to have 2 answers. There's 2 answers because of the x squared. So 2 answers. I'll have an x minus 1 equals plus or minus the square root of 2. So there's a positive and negative. Now, I'm not done, but almost. So I still have to solve. So I'm going to go plus 1, plus 1. I'm going to get x equals 1. That's that one right there. 1 plus or minus the square root of 2. And there are 2 answers there. 1 plus square root of 2, 1 minus square root of 2. Okay? Alright. Now, we need to practice this again. Let's do a second example. Okay? Alright. Example 4. Alright. Example 4, we're going to have a x squared minus a 4x equals a negative 1. Now I leave a little space in here because I'm going to fill that in with whatever 1/2 b squared is, okay? So here we go. The number I'm putting here is positive 4. How do I know that? I'm going to put a 4 here. I'm going to add a 4. How do I know 4? Well, we're going to take half of my b. Take half of b, so I'm going to take half of -4, which is -2, and then I'm going to take that and I'm going to square that. So I got -2, and I'm going to square -2, and I'm going to get a positive 4. Okay. So I want to put a number here that will help me factor it. Half of this number is 2. 2 squared is 4. So I'm going to put a plus 4 right here. So I'm going to go plus 4. Plus 4. Okay. Now it will factor. But I got to balance. Don't forget to balance. I got to balance. If I added 4 to this side, I've got to add 4 to this side. Okay. All right. So then it will factor. So this will factor. It will factor. I'm going to go x and x. This is going to be a 2 and 2, but -2, -2. And on this side, I get a 3. I have completed the square, so let's rewrite as a square. X minus 2, quantity squared, equals 3. Now I can solve. So if I solve, I'm going to square root. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the square, and the square gets rid of each other. So I get just an x minus 2 equals 2 answers. Square root of 3 is an ugly decimal number, so plus or minus the square root of 3. I have to leave a square root of 3 because there's not a square root of 3. And then finally I'll go plus 2, and I'll get x equals 2 plus or minus the square root of 3. Okay, so that is how you do the complete square. Okay, so let me back up real quickly and summarize. Okay, so you get a problem like this one originally. Let me just take a look at our original problem. Oh, yeah, we'll go to our original problem here, okay? Let's say we have this original problem here. We got x squared minus 2x, and it would have been minus 1, right? Does not factor, but we wound up with an answer after all. This will not factor, but by completing the square, we are able to solve it, and we get an answer, okay? That's why we want to complete the square, okay? So, how do you complete the square, okay? What you do, you should take half of that number and square it. You add it to both sides. Then you factor it. After you factor it, you have to solve, so I square root. 2 answers, plus or minus, and then you finish solving, okay? So, homework today. Homework is going to be on page 128. Here, I'll show you so you can see it. Page 128. I want you to do 1 to 15 odd. I'm going to write this down. Okay, page, you guys see this, page 128. Page 128. I want you to do 1 through 15 odd. That's not that many problems. But I also want you to try number 25 and 25. Okay? So again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me. On number 1, real quick, I'll help get you started. We want to find this middle number here. Okay? So I take half of 12. Half of 12 is 6. Half of 12 is 6. And 6 squared is 36. So I'm going to put a plus 36 here. That'll factor. X and x plus 6 plus 6. So I have an x plus 6 squared. That's what they want on number 1. Okay, number 2, or number, go down to number 7. They want you to solve it. Okay, to solve it, we're going to go ahead and do what we did. Take half of this, which is -4. -4, half of that is -4. -4 squared is 16. So I'm going to rewrite this as x squared minus 8x plus 16 equals -15. Factor and solve. Now, all the way down to, say, number 13. You got to bring the 9 over first. Okay, you have to do that. So you can x squared minus 12x equals -9, and then you can fill in the hole and do the rest. Okay? Good luck. It's not an easy assignment, but I have faith you can do it.